The first thing I noticed in Greenland wasn't the ice. It was the silence, so clean it felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for me to mess up. My name is Anglina Johnson, and I was the kind of woman who planned everything. I ran a fast-growing digital marketing company in New York. I didn't just build campaigns, I built people, careers, futures, even my boyfriends. I used to think that was love. When I booked Greenland, it wasn't an escape. It was a reward. 1 full month in summer, long daylight, crisp air, a rented cabin near the fjord, and that rare feeling that the world couldn't reach me. I invited my family too, Mom, Dad, my brother Nolan, and my sisters, Kira and Madeline. We hadn't been together like that in years. And then there was Ethan. Ethan Cole, my boyfriend of 14 months. Charming smile, quiet ambition, big dreams, and that soft voice that could turn any apology into a lullaby. He worked at my company because I'd pushed his resume through. I told my partners he was talented. I told myself I wasn't biased. It was his birthday during our Greenland trip, and I wanted to surprise him. I didn't tell him I'd fly him in. I didn't tell him I'd booked a private little birthday setup. Candles, cake, gifts, and this ridiculous plan I had in my head where he'd look at me with watery eyes and say, "Angie, no one's ever done this for me." I can still hear myself thinking that. Like a fool, Greenland summer feels unreal. The sun lingers like it forgot how to leave. Even at night, the sky stays pale, like a memory that won't fade. The town near our cabin was small, 2 grocery shops, a tiny cafe, a harbor, and a strip of colorful houses that looked like toy blocks. For the first week, it was perfect. My mom laughed more than I'd heard in years. My dad cooked fish like he was 20 again. Nolan acted like he hated being there, but he kept taking photos. Kira and Madeline fought over the dumbest things. Who used the good towel, who left sand on the floor, like sisters always do. And me, I finally slept, I finally breathed, until the day Ethan arrived. I drove to the small airport myself, heart beating too fast for something that was supposed to be happy. I dressed up a little, nothing too much, but enough that I felt like girlfriend and not CEO. I held a tiny sign in my hand that said, "Happy Birthday, ETHAN," with a silly doodle of a penguin. I was smiling before I even saw him. Then the glass doors opened, and my smile froze on my face like the ice outside. Ethan stepped out, carrying a suitcase, wearing that familiar jacket I'd bought him last winter. Behind him, another suitcase rolled. And behind that suitcase, a girl, not a random traveler, not someone who happened to be on the same flight. She walked close to him, too close, like her body already knew where it belonged. She was beautiful in that sharp, confident way, long dark hair, neat brows, glossy lips, and a calm expression that said she didn't need permission to exist. She looked around like she was visiting somewhere she had already claimed. Ethan's eyes found me. His face changed in a fraction of a second. Not relief, not surprise, fear. "Angie," he said, like my presence was the unexpected part. I held up my sign slowly. My fingers felt numb. "Surprise!" The girl's gaze flicked to the sign, then to me, then to Ethan. A small smile tugged at her mouth. It wasn't friendly. It was knowing. Ethan cleared his throat. What are you doing here?" I blinked. "I invited you. It's your birthday week. I told you I'd be here with my family." He looked at the girl like he needed instructions. The girl stepped forward, extending her hand like she was meeting a business client. "Hi, I'm Sienna." Sienna. The way she said her name was smooth, practiced, like she'd said it in front of cameras. She didn't wait for me to respond. She just held her hand there, confident, patient, like I was the one being rude. I shook it because my body was on autopilot. "Anglina." Ethan let out a weird laugh that sounded like it had been squeezed out of him. "Sienna's a friend. She wanted to see Greenland, and it just happened." My heart gave a slow, painful thud. In that moment, I remembered every time Ethan had said he didn't have money. Every time he'd claimed flights were too expensive. Every time he'd told me he was trying, but life was hard. And now he was here, in Greenland. With another woman, I forced my voice to stay calm. "A friend." Sienna tilted her head, studying me. "Ethan talks about you," she said, then softer like a knife sliding under skin, not always kindly. Ethan's eyes snapped to her. "Sienna," I swallowed. "Okay, welcome to Greenland." We drove back in silence. Ethan sat in the passenger seat. Sienna sat in the back behind him like she was guarding something precious. Or maybe she was guarding him from me. My phone buzzed once on the dashboard. A notification from my company's work chat. Someone asking a question about a campaign launch. It felt like two different worlds were colliding inside the same car. When we reached the cabin, my family came out to greet us. My mom waved, my sisters squealed, my dad offered a handshake. Nolan gave Ethan that half-nod men do when they don't want to admit they care. And Sienna. She stepped out like she belonged there too. My mother's smile faltered slightly. Mothers notice things, the air, the tension, the way a woman looks at another woman, but I forced it. I introduced her quickly. "This is Sienna," I said. "Ethan's friend." My mom repeated the word friend like she was tasting it. Oh, we went inside. The cabin smelled like pine and warm bread, but suddenly it felt smaller, like the walls were listening. That night we had dinner. My family tried, they really did. Dad told stories. Kira asked Sienna where she was from. Nolan pretended he didn't care. Sienna answered everything politely, too politely. Like she was playing a role. Ethan barely ate, I watched him. Every time he thought I wasn't looking, his gaze slid to Sienna. Not the way you look at a friend. The way you look at a secret. After dinner, my mom pulled me aside in the kitchen while the others cleaned up. "Angie," she whispered, "who is that girl really?" I smiled too fast. "Ethan's friend, it's fine." My mom's eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me, I'm your mother. I know the difference between fine and I'm bleeding, but I don't want anyone to see." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "He didn't come alone because he couldn't. Ask him about 2 years. And check your company payroll tonight." My breath stopped. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. The kitchen sounds faded, water running, plates clinking, like someone turned the volume down on my life. My mom noticed my face. "What happened?" I locked my phone quickly, forcing a smile. "Nothing. Work," but inside something cold and sharp formed. 2 years, payroll. I looked across the room. Ethan was laughing now, laughing at something Sienna said like he'd forgotten I existed. And Sienna, she looked at me and smiled, not friendly. Like she knew something I didn't. That's when I realized. This wasn't just cheating. This was a plan. And if they brought their plan to my vacation, to my family, to the one place I thought was safe, then I was done being the woman who cried quietly. I was going to become the woman they never saw coming. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe, because the next part is where everything starts to break. I went to my room and opened my laptop. My company dashboard loaded in seconds. And then I saw it. A new employee profile added under my company payroll. Active for 24 months. Salary paid every month. Name, Sienna Hart. My fingers went icy on the keyboard. Sienna didn't just arrive. She'd been inside my life for 2 years. And the worst part, I was the one who paid her. I didn't sleep. The Greenland sun hovered behind thin clouds like a dim light left on in a hallway, enough to see your fear, not enough to feel safe. Everyone else in the cabin had gone quiet. My family's laughter from earlier felt like it happened in another lifetime. I sat on the edge of my bed with my laptop open, staring at the payroll entry like it could blink first and confess. Sienna Hart. Active, 24 months. Role. Brand Partnerships Coordinator. Manager, Ethan Cole. I read it again and again until the words lost meaning. Ethan didn't just betray me as a boyfriend. He used my company like a private ATM. And Sienna, she wasn't a stranger he picked up on the way. She was a ghost living on my payroll, paid with money I'd fought for, money I used to pay real employees, real rent, real taxes. My hands shook as I clicked deeper. Payments, bank routing, direct deposit. Then my stomach dropped. The deposit account wasn't in Sienna's name. It was in a business name. Northwave Consulting LLC. That name rang a bell. Not a clear one, more like a distant alarm you ignore until the building starts burning. I opened my email and searched. Northwave. A thread popped up from months ago. Ethan had recommended a vendor to handle influencer outreach for one of our big clients. He said it would save us time. He'd pushed it hard. I'd approved it because I trusted him, because I wanted to be the kind of girlfriend who believed in her man. The invoices were attached. I opened the first PDF. Then my throat tightened. The invoice looked professional, clean logo, proper formatting. But the contact email at the bottom, it was a Gmail address. And the phone number. It matched Ethan's. I whispered, "No." I pulled up the invoice payments. My dashboard showed the totals across the past year. The numbers didn't scream at first because they were spread out. Smaller amounts. Frequent payments. A little here. A little there. But when I highlighted the last 12 months and totaled them, it was enough to buy a house in cash. I stared at the amount until my eyes stung. Then I did the thing I always do when I'm terrified. I got calm. I clicked export. I downloaded every payroll record, every vendor payment, every invoice linked to Ethan's approvals. I saved everything to an external drive I carried on every trip like a paranoid CEO. I created a second backup, encrypted, and emailed it to myself using a private address my employees didn't know. Then I opened our employee access logs. If Sienna had been working for us, there would be logins, project notes, messages, deliverables. There were almost none. No Slack history, no email thread, no task records, just payroll, just money leaving my company like blood from a quiet wound. I closed the laptop slowly. The cabin made small creaks, wood settling, wind tapping the windows, like it was alive and nervous with me. I walked to the hallway. Ethan and Sienna had taken the guest room across from mine. The door was mostly closed, but a line of light spilled out from under it. I didn't mean to listen, but then I heard my name. "She's not stupid," Ethan said in a low voice. "But she's emotionally blind." "That's why it worked," Sienna laughed softly. "I told you she'd bring you here. She's obsessed with proving she's a good girlfriend." Ethan exhaled like he was annoyed. "We just need a few more days. I'll handle it." Sienna's voice dropped. "You promised. 2 years is long enough, Ethan. I didn't come all the way to Greenland to keep waiting." Then something in her tone changed, like velvet pulled tight over a blade. "And don't forget what you said," Sienna continued. "You said the final part of the plan happens here. Away from cameras. Away from lawyers. Away from people." My pulse hammered. Ethan murmured something I couldn't fully hear, and then Sienna said a single sentence so clear it felt like she spoke directly into my skull. "After tomorrow night, she won't be a problem anymore." My breath stopped. The air around me turned heavy. My skin went cold. I stepped back from the door silently, like a thief in my own life. Inside my room, I sat again trying to think, trying not to panic, trying not to wake my family and scream. What did she mean? Not a problem anymore can mean a lot of things. Public humiliation, blackmail, ruining a relationship, destroying a company. But the way she said it, and the way she mentioned being away from people, that sounded like something darker. I remembered the unknown text. He didn't come alone because he couldn't. Ask him about 2 years. And check your company payroll tonight. Who sent that? Someone in my company, someone who knew Ethan's scam, someone trying to help me, or someone trying to scare me. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Don't confront him, he's already moving money. Tomorrow night, the harbor. If you go alone, you'll regret it. My fingers tightened around the phone. The harbor. There was a harbor in town, a small one, where fishermen tied boats and tourists took late evening rides along the fjord. I'd been there twice already with my sisters, laughing, taking pictures. Tomorrow night. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the world looked innocent. Blue-gray water, distant ice, a sky that refused to get fully dark. I was the only one who knew the truth hiding inside the cabin. Then I heard footsteps, a soft knock. "Angie?" Ethan's voice, gentle like always. "Can we talk?" I opened the door a crack. Ethan leaned against the frame, face carefully arranged into concern. He wore the expression he used when he wanted to be forgiven before he'd even apologized. "Hey," he said, "you've been quiet." I forced my voice steady. "I'm tired." He nodded slowly, eyes scanning my face like he was measuring how much I knew. "Sienna, she's just a friend. We used to date years ago. It's complicated. I didn't want to ruin your trip." I stared at him. The lie was so smooth it almost impressed me. 2 years ago, I asked calmly. His eyelids flickered, just once, but I saw it. "What?" he said, too fast. I tilted my head. "You said years ago. How many years?" Ethan smiled weakly. Angie, don't do that. Don't turn this into an interrogation. I took a step closer, keeping my tone soft. Okay, then explain something else. Why is Sienna on my company payroll? His face froze. For a heartbeat there was no charm, no calm, just raw panic in his eyes. Then he laughed, quick and forced. What are you talking about? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply watched him drown in his own lies. I saw it, I said. Sienna Hart, paid for 24 months, under your management. Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. He looked down, like he was searching for the right story to tell me. I can explain, he said finally. Try, I replied. His eyes hardened for half a second like a mask slipping. Sienna was helping with outreach, he said. You're always busy. I was trying to take pressure off you. She's good at networking. We kept it informal. Payroll was just an easier way. I almost laughed. He really thought I'd accept that. But I didn't react. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. Because I realized something important. If Ethan thought I was still the same Anglina, soft, trusting, eager to prove love, then he would keep showing his hand, and I needed to see the whole deck. I stepped back and let my face soften. I lowered my eyes like a woman trying not to break. I don't understand why you didn't tell me, I whispered. Ethan's shoulders relaxed a little. He moved closer, reaching for my hand like a man comforting a fool. I didn't want you to worry, he murmured. You're under so much stress. I wanted to be useful. I let him hold my hand for 2 seconds. Then I pulled away gently like I needed space, not escape. Okay, I said quietly. I believe you. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Relief flooded his face too quickly. I just need time, I added. This is a lot. Ethan nodded, stepping closer again. Of course, I love you, Angie. I stared at him. He said it like a password, like it should open the door back to my trust. I forced a small smile. I love you too. The lie tasted like metal. When he finally walked away, I locked my door and leaned against it, breathing through the shaking in my chest. I had confirmation now. He was scared because I knew, which meant the plan was real, which meant tomorrow night at the harbor mattered. I opened my messages and typed a single reply to the unknown number. Who are you? 3 dots appeared immediately. Then a message came back that made my blood run colder than the Greenland sea. I'm the reason Sienna hates you, and I'm the only reason you're still alive. Subscribe, because part 3 is where Anglina stops playing defense and starts setting the trap. I read that last message again and again. I'm the reason Sienna hates you, and I'm the only reason you're still alive. My fingers hovered over the screen. Alive. People throw that word around too easily. We say it after accidents, after illnesses, after near misses. But this didn't feel dramatic. It felt literal. I typed slowly, then tell me who you are. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then I was engaged to Ethan, before you. Before Sienna, before he learned how easy it was to lie. My breath caught. A new message followed instantly. He didn't just cheat on you. He practiced on me. I sat on the bed, heart pounding, as the story began to unfold in pieces. Her name was Mara. She had been with Ethan before my company, before my apartment, before my vacations and plans. She believed in him when he had nothing but ambition and excuses. She introduced him to her family. She let him borrow money. She helped him build his first portfolio. Then he met me, and he disappeared. He blocked her, changed numbers, vanished. A month later, she saw him on my Instagram, smiling beside me, standing in my office, wearing a suit I had bought. She wrote, I thought I was crazy. I thought maybe I imagined everything. Then Sienna contacted me. My stomach tightened. Sienna. She told me the truth, Mara wrote. That Ethan used women like ladders. That he never left me, he just upgraded. I stared at the words. Upgrade, that's how they saw it. Sienna said she wanted revenge, Mara continued. She said she'd already figured out how to bleed him dry. She only needed access. I typed, so you helped her. There was a pause this time. Longer. Then, at first, I wanted him to suffer. I wanted him to lose everything the way I did. I closed my eyes, that made sense. Pain makes accomplices out of good people. But Sienna doesn't want revenge, Anglina, Mara wrote. She wants erasure. A chill ran through me. She doesn't just hate him, she hates you, I swallowed. Why me? The reply came in one clean line. Because you're everything she tried to become. I exhaled slowly. Mara explained that Sienna had followed my career long before she ever met Ethan. She applied to my company under a different name and was rejected during an early hiring round. Not because she was bad, because we were already full. Sienna never forgot. When she met Ethan, she recognized him from my social media. She learned everything about me in days, my habits, my travel, my routines, my business structure. And then she built a plan. She convinced Ethan that he deserved more. More money, more power, more control. She showed him how easy it was to hide small payments, how invisible payroll entries could be, how vendors could be invented. She turned him from a cheater into a thief. And now she wanted the last thing I had, my life. I stared at the door of my room, imagining her on the other side of the wall, eating with my family, smiling at my mother, laughing with my sisters, planning. What happens tomorrow night? I typed. Mara replied. Sienna told me she arranged a private boat ride at the harbor. She said Ethan convinced you it would be romantic. She said, by the time she realizes what's happening, the water will do the rest. My chest tightened. Greenland's water was near freezing even in summer. People don't scream in cold shock, they vanish. I typed with shaking hands, you said you're the reason I'm still alive. How? Because I hacked Ethan's phone, Mara wrote. And I sent you the first message. And because I'm not letting her turn me into a murderer. I pressed my palm to my forehead. So what do? I whispered to the empty room. Mara answered before I could type. We let them think you're walking into their ending. But we write a different one. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop. The woman staring back wasn't the Anglina who planned birthdays and surprises. She was sharper now. Colder, ready. The next morning I played my role perfectly. I laughed with my sisters. I helped my mother cook. I let Ethan hold my waist. I thanked Sienna for helping set up a surprise evening. I even apologized. I overreacted, I told Ethan softly while we stood near the window. I trust you, I just needed to calm down. His eyes warmed. He pulled me into a hug. I knew you'd understand, he whispered. Sienna watched us from across the room. Her lips curved slightly. Victory already tasted good to her. At noon, Ethan suggested a walk along the harbor. We could check the boats, he said casually. Maybe book something special for tonight. Tonight? I asked, playing innocent. For us, he replied. I smiled. Of course. Sienna joined us, saying she wanted to take photos. The harbor shimmered in pale sunlight. Wooden docks. Small boats rocking gently. Tourists scattered along the edges, laughing, pointing at the water. Sienna spoke to a man near one of the boats. He nodded, handing her a small card. 7:30, she said lightly. Private ride. Sunset over the fjord. Ethan slipped his arm around me. Romantic, right? I nodded. Inside, I memorized everything. The boat, the man, the route. That afternoon, while everyone rested, I locked myself in my room and connected to Mara's secure link. She had prepared everything. Screenshots, audio clips, bank trails, messages between Ethan and Sienna, plans, jokes, calculations. One voice note made my skin crawl. Sienna's voice, soft and amused. Cold water is merciful. She'll panic for maybe 30 seconds. Then she'll go quiet. People call it an accident. They always do. I closed my eyes. Then I stood up. I put on the dress I'd planned for Ethan's birthday. White, soft. The kind of dress people remember. I braided my hair, applied lipstick. I wanted to look like a woman walking into romance, not into a trap. At 7:20, I stepped into the living room. Ethan smiled. Sienna picked up her camera. My mother looked up. You two going out? Yes, I said gently, just for a boat ride. My mom hesitated. Be careful, the water's cold. I kissed her cheek. I will. She didn't know she was saying goodbye to the daughter she raised. Because the woman walking toward the harbor was someone new. The dock creaked beneath my shoes. The boat waited. Ethan stepped on first. Sienna followed. Then he turned back to me, hand extended. Ready, Angie? I took his hand. And smiled like I didn't already know who would fall. Subscribe, because in part 4, the trap closes, and someone realizes too late that Greenland isn't empty enough to hide a murder. The boat rocked gently as I stepped onto it, my fingers still wrapped around Ethan's hand. The wood felt damp under my shoes, and the air smelled like salt and ice. The harbor lights shimmered across the water, turning the fjord into a mirror of broken gold. "Careful," Ethan said, steadying me. His voice was soft, loving, the same voice that had told two women the same lies. Sienna stood near the front, adjusting her camera strap like a tourist. She looked back at me and smiled. The kind of smile that pretends warmth while calculating distance. The boatman started the engine. "Private ride, just as promised," Sienna said cheerfully. "No one else, just you two. And me, of course, gotta capture memories." Ethan laughed. "You don't miss a moment, do you?" She shrugged. "Moments disappear, pictures don't." I sat down on the bench, smoothing my dress, letting the evening play out as they expected. The shoreline slowly drifted away. The town lights became small, fragile stars behind us. The fjord opened wide. Cold, vast, quiet. I felt it then, the isolation. The way sound softened. The way the world thinned. This was where people vanished. Ethan sat beside me, his arm slipping around my shoulders. "You okay?" he asked. "Perfect," I replied. Sienna stood near the edge, filming the water. "The sunset out here is unreal," she said. "It makes people honest." I glanced at her. "Honest?" She turned, eyes bright. "Something like that." The boatman steered us farther out. The engine hummed low, steady. Then Sienna said casually, "Ethan, could you help me with the camera? I think the lens is stuck." He rose without hesitation, left me alone on the bench. I watched him walk toward her. They stood close. Too close. Sienna whispered something. Ethan nodded. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. "Mara now." I stood. "Ethan," I said gently. "Can you sit with me for a second?" He glanced back, hesitation flickering. Sienna touched his arm. "Just a moment, I've almost got it." Ethan turned back to her. That's when Sienna moved. It was quick. Clean, her hand slid into her jacket pocket. And then I saw the metal. A small, heavy object, smooth, dark, a weight. For a moment, time slowed. I understood. They weren't going to push me. They were going to sink me. A weight tied to fear. An accident dressed as gravity. I stepped forward. "Sienna," I said calmly. She froze. Ethan turned. The boatman glanced back, confused. I met Sienna's eyes. "You should check your phone," I said softly. She frowned. "What?" At the same time, Ethan's phone buzzed. Then hers. Then the boatman's radio crackled. The harbor lights behind us brightened suddenly. A distant engine roared. Sienna's expression shifted. "What is this?" Ethan looked at his screen. Color drained from his face. I took another step forward. "You always thought I was blind," I said quietly. "Emotionally blind. That's what you told her, right?" He stared at me, lips parted. I continued, voice steady. "You thought I wouldn't notice the missing money, the fake vendors, the payroll ghost. You thought love made me weak." Sienna's hand tightened around the weight. "Anglina, don't," Ethan began. I raised my phone. On the screen, a message glowed. "Northwave Consulting LLC accounts frozen. Payroll audit initiated. Law enforcement notified." Ethan staggered back. Sienna's smile cracked. "You did this." "I didn't," I said. "You did." I just stopped ignoring it. The boatman's radio blared. "Private vessel, return to harbor immediately." A larger boat appeared in the distance, lights cutting across the water. Sienna's eyes darted. "This wasn't the plan," she hissed. Ethan whispered, "What did you do?" I looked at him. "I listened." Sienna lunged, not at me, at Ethan. She shoved him hard. He stumbled, arms flailing, slamming into the rail. "Move," she snapped. "You ruined everything." Ethan clutched the edge, eyes wide with terror. "Sienna, stop!" She raised the weight. The boatman shouted. I moved. I grabbed Sienna's wrist. She was stronger than she looked. We struggled. The boat rocked. Wind tore at my hair. "Let go," she screamed. I leaned close, voice low. "You wanted me erased," I said, "but you never asked if I'd disappear quietly." Her eyes burned. Then the boat jerked as the larger vessel drew near. Lights flooded us. Voices echoed. "Drop it," Sienna froze. For one heartbeat, she hesitated. Then she released the weight. It splashed into the fjord. Gone. Ethan collapsed onto the deck, sobbing. Sienna backed away slowly, hands raised. The boatman steered toward the approaching patrol. Sienna's gaze locked on mine. "You think you won," she said softly. I tilted my head. "No, I survived." She laughed, bitter. "He's nothing without you. You built him. Now watch him rot." I met her stare. "I will." The patrol boat pulled alongside. Hands reached out. Orders were given. Sienna was taken first, then Ethan. He looked back at me, tears streaked his face. Angie, please, he whispered. I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't answer, because he was right about one thing, he never meant to stop. The fjord swallowed our silence, and for the first time since Greenland, I felt something close to peace. Subscribe. Because in Part 5, Anglina returns home and learns that survival has consequences no one prepares you for. The flight back felt longer than the one that brought us to Greenland, not because of distance, but because of weight. My family sat around me, unaware of how close I had come to vanishing from their lives. My mother dozed against the window. My sisters whispered about souvenirs. My father read a magazine, glasses slipping down his nose. They thought the trip ended early because of work issues. Only Nolan looked at me differently. He had seen the patrol lights that night. He had seen the boat return without laughter. But he asked no questions. Sometimes love understands silence. When we landed in New York, my phone filled with notifications, emails, messages, missed calls, from lawyers, from banks, from my board, from reporters. The story had already begun to spread. Digital marketing CEO exposes internal fraud scheme. Employee and accomplice arrested in financial crime investigation. Attempted maritime assault under review by authorities. The word attempted followed me everywhere. Attempted theft. Attempted manipulation. Attempted murder. People spoke it like a concept. For me, it was a breath away from being nothing. I didn't go home, I went to my office. The building I had built with nights of exhaustion and mornings of hope now felt unfamiliar. Employees stood in clusters. Conversations paused when I passed. Some faces held pity, others curiosity. Power changes when people realize you bleed. In the boardroom, my legal team waited. We froze all related accounts, one of them said. We're cooperating with authorities in both countries. Your documentation was thorough, I nodded. Ethan confessed, another added. Partially, he claims he didn't intend physical harm. I looked at the table. Did Sienna? A pause. No, the lawyer said carefully. She refuses to speak. Her counsel is pushing for mental health evaluation. I exhaled slowly. Sienna had always known exactly what she was doing. After the meeting, I sat alone in my office. The city hummed below me. Cars, voices, life. Mara's final message lingered on my phone. I'm disappearing. I don't want to be part of this anymore. You're stronger than I ever was. I never saw her again. Weeks passed. The company stabilized. Clients stayed. Employees rallied. But inside me, something shifted. I stopped trusting warmth. I started measuring distance. Every smile felt like a question. Every compliment felt like strategy. At night, I dreamed of water. Cold, endless, pulling. I woke with my heart racing, hand clutching the edge of the bed like a railing. Therapists call it post-traumatic stress. I called it memory refusing to die. One afternoon, a letter arrived at my office. Handwritten, from prison. From Ethan. Angie, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know something you may never believe. I did love you. But I loved what you made me more. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to choose you over myself. Ethan, I read it once. Then I shredded it, because love that trades your life for comfort is not love, it's hunger, and hunger always eats. Sienna's trial approached quietly. The charges expanded. Financial crimes, conspiracy. Attempted homicide. Her lawyer requested a psychological evaluation. The report described her as highly intelligent, emotionally detached, and goal-oriented with minimal empathy. I recognized her in every line. Reporters asked for interviews. I declined. They wanted a heroine. I didn't feel like one. Heroes are untouched. I was altered. The world saw a woman who outsmarted betrayal. I felt like someone who learned too late how thin safety really is. One evening, I stood on my balcony, watching the city lights shimmer. My phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. My breath caught. But the words were different. Your story saved me. I was about to trust the wrong man. I won't now. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, don't build your life on someone else's promises. Build it on your own strength. I deleted the thread. The night breeze brushed my skin. I closed my eyes. And for the first time since Greenland, I let myself breathe without fear, because survival is not the end. It's the beginning of a life where you choose yourself. Always. Part 6 is coming, the final chapter, where Anglina faces the one truth no victory prepares you for. The courtroom was colder than Greenland. Not in temperature, in feeling. Wooden benches, pale walls, the quiet hum of air conditioning. Everything designed to look neutral, fair, clean, but nothing about this room was clean. I sat in the front row, hands folded in my lap, posture straight, face calm. Reporters filled the back. Their cameras waited like predators. My lawyers sat beside me, whispering occasionally, but I barely heard them. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. Sienna entered in handcuffs. She looked smaller than I remembered. No perfect makeup. No confident stride. No tourist smile. Just a woman in a gray uniform, hair pulled back, eyes sharp with something that wasn't fear. It was anger. She didn't look at the judge. She didn't look at the jury. She looked at me and smiled. That smile said, "You may have survived, but I still live inside your story." The prosecutor read the charges. Financial fraud, conspiracy, attempted homicide. Each word felt like a stone dropped into water. Sienna's lawyer argued. Mental instability, manipulation by Ethan, emotional distress. Sienna never blinked. When the judge asked if she wished to speak, the room held its breath. She stood and turned toward me. "Everyone here thinks this is about jealousy," she said calmly. "They think this is about a man." She tilted her head slightly. "It's not." The room was silent. "I didn't hate Anglina because she loved Ethan," Sienna continued. "I hated her because she was everything I wanted to be, powerful, respected, untouchable." Her eyes locked on mine. "Some people don't want to climb," she said. "They want to replace." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. "I didn't want her money," Sienna added. "I wanted her position, her life, her world. I wanted to stand where she stood." She paused. "And when you can't become someone, you erase them." The judge struck the gavel. Sienna sat. The verdict came later, guilty on all counts. The sentence was long, long enough that she would grow old behind walls, long enough that her name would fade, long enough that she would never touch another life. People congratulated me afterward. "You won. You're so strong. You're an inspiration." I smiled, because that's what survivors do, but victory is strange. It doesn't feel loud. It doesn't feel golden. It feels quiet. It feels like standing alone after a storm, surrounded by pieces of a life you once trusted. That night, I walked through my apartment without turning on the lights. City glow spilled in through the windows. I stopped in front of the mirror. For a long time, I stared at my reflection. I expected to see a warrior, a heroine, a woman forged by fire. Instead, I saw a girl who once planned birthdays. A woman who believed love meant safety. A soul that had learned something brutal. Evil doesn't always knock. Sometimes it smiles. I whispered to the mirror, "You're still here." And that mattered. Because the darkest truth I learned wasn't about betrayal. It was this: the world isn't dangerous because monsters exist. It's dangerous because monsters know how to look human. I didn't become colder. I became clearer. I stopped confusing charm with character. I stopped mistaking attention for loyalty. I stopped building my life around anyone else's potential. I built it around my own. Months later, I returned to Greenland. Not with family. Not with love. Alone. I stood at the harbor where the boat once waited. The water moved the same way. Cold, endless, honest. I closed my eyes. I imagined the version of me who almost vanished. And I said quietly, "You didn't disappear. You evolved." Then I turned back toward land, because revenge isn't destruction. It's survival. And the darkest twist of all, they tried to erase me. Instead, they taught me how impossible that really is.